What is happening, Magnusites? How bad can it get? Well, I think it's high time we found out, huh? Yeah.
There's a thing that happens in that town, in that area, where it's the people that think outside of the norm say it in like whispered, hushed tones. Mm-hmm. There's a certain ideology that's attached to that city, and it's not logical. Completely insulated left-wing view of the world.
When it comes time to taking positions about issues, I have tried really hard over the years, and I'm not calling them politics, because a lot of them are not politics.
Sometimes it's what is right and what is wrong.
They enforce it with an iron fist. And if you're not on that team, you don't get booked for things. You don't get picked for things. If you're someone who has conservative leanings, or you talk about, because there's projects you're never going to get. They'll malign you and, without knowing you at all, be openly prejudiced about you. So everyone who goes over there, who's just like desperately trying to make it, the last thing they want to do is do something and talk about something that's going to politically get them at odds with the people that run the studios.
That's what I've heard. I've definitely heard it. And that's why you see certain YouTubers shying away or just showing that they're completely afraid of talking about specific issues. A lot of us aren't. It's, we're not willing to shill to make it, to sell our soul to make it, to, it's, it should be okay to voice yourself, and if you can't voice yourself and be yourself, it's a damn shame, especially in entertainment, because, when you're in entertainment, you have a craft that you're honing. And whether you're a comedian, you're an actor, you're a singer, you are your brand, that your personality and all of that comes through the camera to other people. And people don't just buy your voice or your acting ability or your ability to paint or draw or direct. They buy also you, and it's a shame when people just can't. If you have to pretend like you like something, like you're okay with something, and just go with it to make it. I've heard these things. Is it true? I don't know. I haven't experienced it firsthand, but I've always told you guys that if I have to shill to make it, if I have to sell my soul, whether it's, figuratively on the dotted line or some of the other crazy stuff you can find going down the rabbit hole on YouTube, then it ain't for me. Got what I'm saying? I lose woke subscribers all the time. Anytime I got something to say about something crazy that they're putting in television, video games, or movies, people leave. People ask me, yo, shouldn't you be at 2 million by now? No, because the woke are leaving. I have to weed the woke out. And then the sane come in. You get what I'm saying? I've had people talk trash and say, oh, you don't get the views you used to get before. It doesn't matter. Well, you know what I look at? I look at, first of all, can I pay my bills? Yes, I make plenty. I'm fine. Okay? And I don't look at views per video like a lot of other people do. I look at views per month. And it's been relatively the same for a long time. So the way YouTube pays us anyway, YouTubers are making more money now than we did years ago. So, the fact of the matter is, we're still financially stable. You can talk about anything you want on here. You can lose subscribers, but you're still getting other people that are watching you. And I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe my views have fallen per video, but every month they're still the same. That's interesting, So I'm willing to do that, to show who I really am and be myself And if that makes people mad and they want to leave and, they want to write mean comments, then so be it. I'm not here to fake for you. Yeah, I'm an actor, but I'm not going to fake who I am on my YouTube channel just to get to 2 million or 10 million or whatever. I only say 10 million because it's the next plaque. It's not truly a goal for me. The goal was 1 million. And people told me for years that I wouldn't make it. And I knew that I would. And I did. One of my goals was always to become a mainstream actor. However, I am willing to totally give that up if I can't be myself. If I have to be a robot, if I have to just go along with whatever the machine says and all these other things, then it's just not for me. And people could talk trash, oh, you ain't making mainstream, you wanted to go, it don't matter because I didn't sell out. That's what matters, okay? I didn't sell out. I'm doing fine. I've got a voice. I'm good. Let's continue.
So no one does. Everybody just follows the same sort of wacky ideology that these people take from the universities. They go straight into...
Yo, let me tell you something. And I know guys that are so afraid to say anything about this trash they've been putting in our entertainment. I know them. And one of them in particular is such a damn coward that I'm thinking of right now because I used to be cool with him. And I remember running across something years ago with him. Years ago. And I could not believe it when I saw it. He was begging and pleading. And he showed all his cards. I stayed cool with him after that, but it was one of those things where it was like, oh my God, he's a coward. He's bending the knee. Oh man. And one day I was actually going to say something to him about it, but I just never did. Just brushed it under the rug. Because one thing that's good to do when you're getting to know people, sometimes people show red flags. But sometimes the red flag really isn't a red flag. You need to continue to observe before you jump to a conclusion. So that's what I was doing. And then this person proved themselves to me very recently. And I was just like, okay, I get it. Yes, it has come full circle. I understand. So, and I've seen it with other people other than that, just that person. I'm like, he's afraid. Oh, she's afraid. You can see it. You can tell, especially if you've been watching or reading things from certain people for years or for a while. When there's a shift, you can tell. And with me, it was funny. I remember when things first started to kind of change, but I was really like, it was here and there. You know what I mean? Things were here and there. But people like, say, for example, Geeks and Gamers, that channel, they were picking up on this years or months before I was really like, And I would watch them sometimes, and I would watch other channels sometimes. And there's so many dots being connected between, say, them and maybe Doomcock and maybe, Nerdrotic or whatever. Just, and after a while, Eric July, I'm just watching people and I'm just like, they're noticing everything. It's, like I am still in observation mode, hoping it's really not going in that direction. And these guys are calling it. Heels versus babyface. They're calling this stuff. It's gone. This stuff is happening and it's continuing to happen. Critical Drinker, just a lot of different people. And I'm just, and I got so sick of it at one point because I saw it coming and I just hoped it wasn't going to continue. I was hoping the companies were going to understand and just turn around. We don't like this stuff. Everyone, the majority of everyone that is watching these movies, playing these video games, reading these comic books, watching these cartoon series or these live action series, we are all for diversity. We are all for equity, equality, inclusion. But the way you're pushing it in a manner that is very, very grating to people. And people are going to get irritated with it over time. You're changing the sexuality of these characters. You are changing the gender of these characters. You are changing the fundamental qualities of these characters just to fit a narrative, check a box, a DEI score. It's insane. And I just saw the insanity of them continuing and losing millions of subscribers on their different streaming platforms and the billions of dollars in the stock market. It's just insane. And it reminds me in a way kind of like a religion. Like, you kind of have to, it's a lot of religions out there, you can't question it. You can't ask your questions about this and that. If you do, it kind of, if that's what it feels like. Now, personally, I have not run into, like I said, what Joe Rogan's talking about over here, but I've heard about it. The good inside me likes to hope that it's not real, but when I first started going out to Hollywood, people would tell me, watch out for the backstabbers, watch out for the vampires. And I never would have thought that the backstabbers that I met would have been who they were. I never would have thought that, ever. And, it's just, I hear a lot of crazy stories. And, hey, I will just be a social media quote unquote influencer for the rest of my career if that's the case. But we'll see. I'm going to continue to go after my acting career, but we shall see.
To working as a PA and straight into working for executives and producers, and all of those people are indoctrinated. They're all in this wild ass cult of weirdness.
During an altercation at a Hilo karaoke bar.
You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors.
That's a storm of anxiety. Just a hurricane of confusion, Zoloft, and and everyone's losing their mind. Everyone's in therapy, and everyone's nuts, and everyone's trans. It's out of touch.
Yeah.
It's just a crazed cult.
So what is happening in Hollywood?
Nobody
knows. The worst thing to call somebody is crazy is dismissive. I don't understand this person, so they're crazy. That's bullshit. These people are not crazy. They're strong people. Maybe the environment is a little sick.
nerdrotic.com.
Greetings, you over 991,000 awakening wonders and the 40% who haven't subscribed yet. Despite the recent and impressive box office success of Dune, our good friends at Hollywood are looking at some dark times. How can a giant, influential, although not so much recently, industry that survived wars, recessions, depressions, and previous strikes
fall out that dress, wasn't she?
Some would argue, including yours truly, that while Hollywood was always a bit off, but then a certain orange man arrives and
Everyone loses their minds.
along with Me Too, which might have started in a genuine place but turned into a giant power grab and fraud. But still, things were good thanks to the economy brought on by that orange man. The investor money was flowing in that golden goose of streaming.
I need to see that full clip with sound.
This was the beginning of the era of making the audience the enemy, but not to worry because they were all bigots and the modern audience was there to replace them. And Hollywood became woke Hollywood. Unfortunately for them, reality hit. And we all know what happened next. Rooting on lockdowns while they were allowed to work during the coof. Cringe celebrity.
Yeah, it makes me think about how, him and myself and a bunch of other YouTubers, even mainstream people, have been attacked if you don't go along with it. And, half the time I'm thinking they're bots. But the other half, I'm like, they can't be sane people attacking you. Because no one could watch our material and see us rooting for every race over these years. And rooting for both genders over these years. For success. Rooting for Wonder Woman. For Black Widow. Rooting, you know what I'm saying, for Black Panther. Rooting for all the Avengers. You know what I mean? Just rooting for all of these characters. But then when they change this, oh, wait a minute. You're this. You're that. You're phobic this. You're ism this. You're is this. It's crazy. It's insane that they would even lie on you like that. But when you need to lie to win an argument, you've already lost.
Videos rooting on the summer of love from the comfort of their $1 million mansions while everyone was locked down. Did I mention they were allowed to work through that? Oh yes, I did, which in turn led to more cringe celebrity videos, propagandized content, and taking part in fortifications, which exacerbated the decline of the award show, the decline of late night talk, and the decline of broadcast television. Let's not forget that they abandoned the theaters, but when they came back in the year of the Flopbuster, the Writers Guild and the Film Actors Guild decided to have a 6-month strike, all while the streaming bubble burst, leading to the inevitable shrinkage, which have led to massive layoffs, a corporate rebellion within Disney, and Paramount is for sale, and the current problem, the introduction of segregationist rules with DEI, leading to headlines like "The Coming Cinema Apocalypse is Here" and "Death Spiral of Hollywood Monopolies." What's a giant industry filled with multinational corporations?
Got a question. Has any other studio had that many flops in a row as Disney has? I'm serious. Like, I assume it's never happened. Is that a record?
To do. It's not like they didn't have time to fix these problems
They
over the
had
last
time.
6 or 7 years, but instead they decided to blame you and think everything was great. And
Yeah.
now they're headed to the long, dark power lunch of the soul, where they're going to stare deeply into their navels.
Thumbs up their asses. Thumbs up their asses.
And this has led to the New York Times, of all places, asking, how bad can it get for Hollywood? Well, spoilers. Pretty fucking bad. As usual with these corporate legacy media articles, they hit some good points, and then they miss the giant Lizzo in the room. Now, this is an opinion piece from cultural critic Mike Harris, but I would argue every article in the New York Times is an opinion piece. For Hollywood, 2023 was not so much a disaster as a preview of disasters to come. Wow. Sure. One of the big stories last year was the Barbenheimer phenomenon. 2 celebrated hits that marched arm in arm towards a combined 21 Oscar nominations, but everywhere else you look, the prognosis is grim. I seem to recall that a few YouTubers and a large portion of Tinseltown's audience saying that the prognosis for woke Hollywood has been grim for quite some time. The industry, still staggering back from the pandemic shutdowns, was hit with twin strikes that brought production to a halt for 6 months, where the unions fell right into the producer's trap. All of this is happening as the industry seems to realize in unison that those streaming services, those wondrous platforms that were going to carry the town into the future like magic carpets, maybe aren't the panacea after all. And hanging over all of this anger and anxiety is the menace of AI, which threatens every human part of the creative food chain, from the writers who pen scripts, to the actors whose faces fill the screen, to theoretically the studio executives whose jobs are piloting hits.
Wow.
And yes, this is a very real concern. Tyler Perry halts $800 million studio expansion, citing concerns over OpenAI's Sora. He was going to add 12 more sound stages, which would have employed a lot of people, but all of that is currently and indefinitely on hold because of Sora and what I'm seeing. I also seem to recall that a few YouTubers, a giant portion of Tinseltown's audience, a couple of rogue executives, and anonymous members from the WGA and the Film Actors Guild warning that 2023 might not be the best time for a strike. And it would lead to things like massive layoffs, multiple canceled projects, and overall contraction. Well, the year 2023 was a time of downsizing, diminishment, shelving, sidelining, retrenching, retreating, and bet hedging. And 2024 is the year of consequences.
No shit.
The plain fact is that, thanks to the strikes, there simply aren't enough movies and new shows in the pipeline to give the business the boom year it badly needs.
Go back to all the old good stuff that you got on the streaming platforms or in your DVD and Blu-ray collection. Maybe even go to your VHSs. I actually found an old VHS tape of Ninja Scroll. Yeah! Ninja Scroll. You anime fans don't know what Ninja Scroll is. You better find out. There's a series, but I'm talking about the movie. Yeah. Felt so good to watch something and just not have to deal with what we're currently dealing with. Escapism. True escapism.
Those are all very good points, but he still seems to be missing one. Let's see if he gets there. For Hollywood, it will take at least a full year. It's going to take a lot longer than that for the supply lines to start flowing at capacity again. And there are fewer supply lines than there used to be. Only 5 of the legacy media companies still operate as traditional studios, and one of those, Paramount, is up for sale.
You know what it makes me think of? You remember back when Captain Marvel came out and it flopped? And it was all controversy with the empty theaters, with all the seats being bought up, but these theaters were also empty. There was the controversy over whether it really made $1 billion or not. And people hated her so much that they, rumor was that they diminished her role in Endgame. You remember that? You remember that? They knew then that it was a bad idea. They knew then, and they still went forward with it.
I guess the Sheridan-verse couldn't counteract the perpetual flushing toilet that's Kurtzman Trek. But I'm sure Season 5 of Star Trek Discovery is going to pump up those sub numbers. As for new projects, the industry's current whispered motto seems to be, after male and pale is stale, just survive until 25. Writers and producers pitching projects are being warned to keep expectations at basement level. Nobody's buying, everybody's cutting costs, caution rules, and the boom times are over.
I feel I should have seen that coming.
Now, most of this article goes over the history of Hollywood and all it survived, like I did at the beginning of the video. Again, it survived wars, recessions, depressions, a war with itself over the commies that were infiltrating the industry, and, well, hell, that's the same problem now. And while that is a major problem, they still haven't talked about the biggest one, but it does seem that the one thing Hollywood couldn't survive was itself. That's where the movie business is right now. The system, it seems, is once again sick of itself. The industry has, for the past 4 years, been wondering when it can get back to normal, and it's becoming increasingly clear that there may be no such thing. There is only forward to something new. The industry is about to find out what that might look like. Unfortunately for woke Hollywood, you've already stated in this article what this looks like. A grim prognosis, dire consequences, and way past the point of no return. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, that's not exactly true. There might be another strike right around the corner. That's right, IATSE, not to be confused with Teamsters, which is all the stage and craft workers, amongst the many others, warn of another Hollywood strike and a massive rally. Put your helmets on. And the Teamsters, who are known to have a squeaky clean past as far as their operations are...
Have this strike. I'm busy watching and catching up on old series and new series that just came out that are good and stuff like that. So I'll have plenty of entertainment for a while. Just plenty of things I haven't seen. So I'll be good.
Are concerned are serious with this announcement, which includes a stunning admission at the end.
Now it's time, brothers and sisters, to make them aware that if they thought they had a fight last summer, that they can't even predict what's going to happen to them now. You think they would have learned last year when they took on 2 strong unions? We don't care about consequences for our actions. We don't care about public relations. What we care about is making certain that our members who make these white-collar crime syndicates the success they are... What? What the fuck? It's not about what they're going to give us. It's about what we're going to demand and take moving forward.
Thank you for your honesty, Mr. Teamster, where you openly admit that you support and make successful what you call a criminal organization.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
And again, that strike could happen this summer, which could potentially lead to more delays. And even if it doesn't, look at the 2020...
Brothers and sisters, to make them aware that if they thought they had a fight last summer, that they can't even predict what's going to happen to them now. You think they would have learned last year when they took on 2 strong unions? We don't care about consequences for our actions. We don't care about public relations. What we care about is making certain that our members who make these white-collar crime syndicates the success they are. It's not about what they're going to give us. It's about what we're going to do.
I was listening, but I was zoned at the same time.
Thank you for your honesty, Mr. Teamster, where you openly admit that you support and make successful what you call a criminal organization.
I'm going to make him an offer again.
And again, that strike
I don't know
could
if
happen
that's
this
what
summer, which
he
could
was
potentially
exactly
lead to more
saying.
delays. And even if it doesn't, look at the 2024 release schedule. That covers the grim prognosis. How about those consequences? I mean, aside from all the downsizing, layoffs, streaming mostly being a bust except for Netflix, I seem to recall a lot of people in this sphere warning you that this would happen, and that's exactly how it went down. Just like we warned you what would happen when you set out to vandalize and subvert all of our beloved characters and IPs, including Lord of the Rings, Doctor Who, Star Trek, DC, Star Wars, and Marvel. Things have gotten so bad, Bob Iger, the weatherman, has had to restate for the 5th time in the last calendar year that Disney's going to focus on quality over quantity, but he did admit to something. From Deadline, Disney has killed a few projects amid studio overhaul, says Bob Iger. We've not been that public about it. Considering that Disney Marvel released The Marvels and Echo within a couple of months of each other, Disney Star Wars is going to release The Acolyte later this year.
Yes, yes.
As far as I know, Star Wars is still going to happen. I can't imagine what that means. This brings us to the woke
Almost forgot.
Hollywood has the point of no return portion of this story. I've always been of the belief that Hollywood could turn things around. They just wouldn't. But now, even if they wanted to, they couldn't, thanks to their segregationist and anti-meritocracy policies known as DEI, which essentially is a neo-Marxist alphabet theory soup, which prioritizes activism over storytelling, which makes it impossible to do the two main things your industry needs to do: be creative and make money. Cancer has metastasized in every aspect of our culture, including, but not limited to, chips, beer, sports, and it's currently blowing up in gaming right now with the expose of Sweet Baby Inc.
Yeah, you heard about all that Doritos stuff? I didn't do no video on it, but I saw the people doing videos on it. I was like, what? 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 What the? Yeah.
A third-party DEI extortion racket where an old video has resurfaced of the CEO admitting it's extortion.
If you're a creative working in AAA, which I did for many, many years, put this stuff up to your higher-ups, and if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
And this
I couldn't believe that clip actually came out. I'm going to go look for that because I want to see the full context of what she's talking about. But if it's the way everyone's been talking about it, it's a type of tactic in sales. It's a type of tactic in sales that I refused to use when I was in sales. I told you about the great things of the product. I tried to help ease your fears because I sold cars and I sold security systems. I sold security systems very well. So I dealt with a lot of fear. I didn't want to scare people to death. They were already scared ordering a security system. So I wanted to ease their fears. You know, you selling cars, people are in fear too. They're fear of being ripped off. But I was taught to be honest, even though I was in a place that was very dishonest. The people who taught me to be honest. So I was always honest. But there were plenty of people that would use fear tactics, and it ain't good.
Makes you instantly think of the BlackRock CEO openly talking about this just a couple of years prior to this video.
You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors.
And who could forget this from actress Gina Davis?
When you're describing a crowd scene in the script, you have to write a crowd gathers, which is half female.
For the past 7 years, the Gina Davis Institute has broken ground with its machine learning analysis of bias in film and television. But what if the potential for representation on screen could be identified first on the page? A script can be analyzed for representation of characters and percentage of dialogue by gender, race, LGBTQIA, and disabilities, percentage of non-gender identified speaking characters, highlighting opportunities for more balanced representation, and so much more.
Now this stuff has been out there for years thanks to their
sheer
hubris.
Now more people know about it. And I'm sure you've noticed over the last few years how open and comfortable everyone was talking about their not-so-secret agendas with zero fear of consequences. Well, it turns out that there are some.
It's so weird to me because even as a kid, I remember entertainment having diversity in it. All colors, different sexualities. I remember this. I remember seeing gay people on TV forever. I remember seeing people cross-dressing. I remember seeing black people, white people, women, men, everybody doing different roles. I remember all this as a child. That's why I don't understand why things are being pushed the way they are now. It's like they're perverting how they place these roles in these movies. It's so damn strange, man. And every once in a while, yeah, you would have like a race swap of a character or something, but it was, you know what it felt like then? Oh, we're just trying something a little different. You know, when you had Michael Clark Duncan as the Kingpin. You know, it was like, oh yeah, just trying something a little different. You know what I mean? That's what it felt like. It didn't feel like narrative and push and political and being preached to. You get what I'm saying? Even when they came out with Ventures and Nick Fury, and I remember it being in the movies, thinking to myself, wait a minute, Nick Fury was white when I was growing up. He must be an alternate version or something like that. But it wasn't thinking, oh, this is narrative. They're pushing something. They're preaching to, and it didn't feel that way either. It was just, my boy he was like, oh yeah, he's the ultimate version. I'm like, oh, okay. And that was it. Nobody had a problem with it. But once people found out that they were pushing this stuff, overtly forcing this stuff, and then making changes they didn't need to make, it was just like, what? You already had all the inclusion and diversity in these movies. What do you mean? You're saying it like they don't have it already. We've loved powerful female characters, like, for years. It's just so weird, man. So strange.
I'm sure you remember Disney had to admit that going woke damaged their brand last year. From the post-millennial, Disney announced that they finally realized that they are...
Like, it really happened. It was a fulfilling prophecy. It was like all the fandom, the majority of the fandom told them, go woke, go broke. And it literally happened. Now, you might not say super literal, because they're not broke yet, but they're going broke. You know what I mean? It's like, maybe it should be like, go woke, proceed to broke, because it's like a journey. You know what I mean? Go woke, proceed to broke, because it's going to happen eventually.
A step with their audiences. Oh, that word audiences. We haven't heard that yet. Please keep it in mind. This has had a deep impact on their profitability. In a filing with the SEC, the company referenced that they had experienced risks relating to misalignment with public and consumer tastes.
Well. How the turntables...
Yeah, I love it, man.
The neo-Marxist cancerous alphabet soup has essentially had to admit that they are out of step with their audiences. Oh, that word audiences. We haven't heard that yet. Please keep it in mind. This has had a deep impact on their profitability. In a filing with the SEC, the company referenced that they had experienced risks relating to misalignment with public and consumer tastes.
Well. How the turntables...
The main sources of the Marxist cancerous...
Steve Carell is a comic genius. To me, he's on level with, like, dudes like he's right in league with guys like Jim Carrey. Okay? I wouldn't put him neck and neck with Jim. But he's like, the way he delivers stuff is just, man, he's up there with the best comedians that I've ever seen out there with how he performs in his, comedic roles in movies, man. Eddie, Richard Pryor, Jim Carrey, Will Ferrell, they're all like, a lot of these guys are all kind of like, you know what I mean? There's certain guys that are right at the top, but they're in a league together, you know what I mean? And I know some of them you would say is in a league of their own, like Jim Carrey or maybe Eddie or Richard Pryor, there's an argument to be made for almost all of them that they're, in their leagues of their own. But man, Carell is good.
Has essentially had to admit the same thing. This is from a BlackRock filing. Matters subject to scrutiny, such as ESG, may be viewed differently by various stakeholders and adversely impact BlackRock's reputation and business. And it hasn't just damaged a brand or a business, it's damaged entire industries, including Hollywood. And while Hollywood has faced a lot of problems in the past, diversity, equity, and inclusion has brought on something new, because it led directly to their war with the paying customer. Be it coordinated attacks on the fans from companies like Lucasfilm or Amazon, a family brand betraying the family like Disney, preachy adult pretenders, subverted beloved characters, bait and switches, girl bosses. People are sick of it. And most in Hollywood didn't even realize that people were voicing their opinions on this because they cared. But it was much less risk averse for all the studios.
When I think of the diversity, I think, what I'm thinking about right now? Diversity actually saved my YouTube channel. When I think about how the industry has been dying, think about this, Magnus. You guys has been following me for years. What if I only did movie reviews? Like, could you imagine to just be hating almost every movie that comes out that's in the genre that you especially love? There's other movies that have come out over the years that I've really liked. However, it's not as much as it used to be. And, it's like but I do so many different types of videos. Everything from unboxings to reactions to gaming to, just skits with Scarlo and, answering questions and news and, I do all types of stuff. And I think that if I was pigeonholed, like if you truly look at my videos, if you like with the views, like my views are all over the place and they always have been. Because my news videos get different views than my question Q&A videos, get different views than my movie reviews, than my reactions, than my live streams. Then they all get different types of views. And everything that went viral was usually the major movie trailers dropping. And the try not to laughs. The try not to laughs for a while, like a lot of them went viral. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them. But I had to delete a lot because of other, copyright and other issues. Like, I was at 1 billion views a couple of years ago. And I had to delete them all. And it dropped me. You know what I'm saying? And, I had a discussion with YouTube about that. I was like, this, I'm changing, certain things like that. But anyway, yeah, so, like if you go back years ago, like you would see some videos would have 5,000 views and then the next one would have 80,000. And one might have 1 million, might want to have 250, then one have 30,000, another have 15, like that, always like that. That's why I said, I always look at the views per month. Because I'm like, well, as long as I'm pretty much doing, as long as I can pay my bills, I'm good. You know what I mean? I'm good. I'm happy. I'm speaking my truth. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? So diversifying, just doing all different types of videos, which is what made my channel, it's like I just do so many things. I just do what I'm interested in. You got what I'm saying? You haven't seen too many unboxings because I haven't been interested in that as of late. Doesn't mean I'll never do them again. You know what I'm saying? I haven't done Q&A in a while. I might start doing them again. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of times you guys kind of help flow, drive me towards certain things because you love certain things so much more than others. You know what I'm saying? So, but Adik is back with the Try Not to Laugh. So make sure y'all send me some more good ones too, by the way.
And the giant Silicon Valley corporations to make you and I the enemy rather than call out the activists within their own buildings. And this is the one glaring problem and mortal wound for an industry that the legacy corporate media, the access media, or a cultural historian writing an op-ed for the New York Times will deny ever exists. And until they do, nothing's going to change. And it sounds like they're resigned to that. Back to the New York Times article, one agent said, a lot of us are feeling like we're working in the aftermath of an industry, not an industry. And now the audience that you, major enemy, took for granted and thought was disposable is now your competition.
Now you're all in big trouble.
So while another union fights the corporations that they need over an industry that's sinking and shrinking, it's clear that peak woke Hollywood has finally come to an end, and that's a good thing.
nerdrotic.com.
If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next video.
You're welcome, sir. Go over to Nerdrotic, subscribe, tell them Tyrone Magnus sent you. If you enjoyed it, I think this is the longest Nerdrotic video I've done. I was spitballing. Post comments down below. Let me know what you all think. If you enjoy my reaction, hit the like button, subscribe, and share.